I wondered, just briefly, if 2 Chronicles 27 might be the shortest chapter in the Bible, being just 9 verses in length. But actually there are a whole load of chapters with less than that. Psalm 117 has 2 verses, for example. Still, this is a surprisingly short chapter. And what we've noticed previously is that while the information in Kings always correlates with the information in Chronicles, sometimes it is the case that one book tells the abbreviated story and the other tells the expanded story. Well, not in this instance. Jotham gets 9 verses in 2 Chronicles 27, and if you turn back to 2 Kings 15, you'll find that he's given just 7 verses. We know very, very little about Jotham, king of Judah, which in so many ways, I think, is a good thing. The story of this man's life clearly is not a story of twisting and turning and fleeing and fighting against God. It is not a story of endless rebellion and restoration. It is not a story that is infused with sin and scandal. It is, evidently, a simple, beautiful life. We'll come back to this in a moment, but there are few things better to aim at than that. A simple, beautiful life. So let's find out how it happened. Jotham was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. Remember that some of those years he would have been reigning alongside his father, while his dad was leprous and confined to a separate living quarters. You'll remember that Jotham was reigning and ruling over the palace on behalf of his father. And so, no doubt, by the time he became the sole king of Judah, he had already learned an awful lot of what to do already. He had also evidently learned what not to do. And this is really telling. He, Jotham, he has seen the effects of sin in his father's life, hasn't he? He had seen up close and personal the kind of separation that sin causes, and he has determined to do differently to his dad. See in verse 2, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father Uzziah had done. Remember, his father had started out very well, but unlike him, he did not enter the temple of the Lord. He knew his role, and he stuck to his role. He was a worshipper of God. And so he learned leadership from his father's good example, and he learned to avoid certain sins due to his father's shortcomings, and it made for a well-rounded, servant-hearted man. And though the people that he led never did humble themselves and submit themselves to worshipping the living God, still Jotham continued to do what was right in the eyes of the Lord. That's hard, isn't it? He was surrounded by people who were stubborn and entrenched in their sin, and Jotham cannot change their hearts. We are reminded that we are living in a generation that, by and large, doesn't love the Lord. And yes, we have work to do, and yes, we have a part to play, but we cannot change their hearts. We trust the living God with these people. And if it is the case that our families or our work colleagues or the people in our communities, they never do turn to trust in the Lord, well, our role remains the same. Serve him steadfastly as best as we are able. And Jotham did exactly that. He rebuilt the upper gate of the temple of the Lord, and he did extensive work at the hill of Ophel. We see that he also waged war against the Ammonites and conquered them. That is no mean feat. That is hugely impressive. And the Ammonites begin then to pay him tribute. Jotham grew powerful because he walked steadfastly before the Lord his God. Do you remember how, in the case of the previous king, when he grew powerful and famous, that was the thing that stopped him walking faithfully with God? That is not the case with Jotham. He grows powerful, and his power, he recognizes, is rooted in the relationship he has with the living God. What a glorious little chapter this is. Over in the New Testament, Paul writes in the book of 1 Thessalonians, "Make it your ambition to live a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your own hands." That is a picture of a peaceful but purposeful Christian life. And there's something of that in the account that we are given of King Jotham here. Apparently, no skeletons in the closet, no shocking sin, no great scandal, a simple, faithful life lived for the glory of God. Is it your ambition to live a life like that? If you reach the end of your life and look back upon the years that God gave you, what will you see when you look? It might be the case that your life is one full of rebellion and restoration. It might be that that is the tale that you tell of the glorious patience God had with you. And if that is the case, Praise God for the story he has given you. But do you see that there is something so wonderful about a life that is lived quietly, peacefully, purposefully for the glory of God? I know a handful of people who, as far as I can tell, have lived lives like that. And many people might look at their lives and say, there's nothing much spectacular about them. But that ought to be said to their credit. Their ambition all along was a quiet life lived for the glory of God. They've done their work diligently. They have loved their family wholeheartedly. They have served the church faithfully, and they have given to others generously. They have lived out their love for God.